All right, welcome back to another unboxing and testing and overall review for another portable power station. Today we'll be doing the EcoFlow River 3 Plus. The Plus model has slightly more battery life, a little bit more output than the River 3 regular model, and it's also expandable. I was able to get the River 3 Plus a 45 watt solar panel for just shy of $111 or $211. So it was $210 and some change shipped from EcoFlow's website. I will put a 5% discount link in the description, so if you wish to purchase something like that, you can get 5% off. Let's start with the solar panel. We'll unbox that first. Here's the solar panel. Mine came with a really cool dent. You probably won't get that, that's custom. EcoFlow box, I know what's in it. Looks like it comes with some carabiners. The DC to XT60, I believe, charging cable. And that's all she wrote in that box. We have a manual, quick start guide, and there it is. It's like the size of a notebook. We have our two outputs here, USBC, and get it open, DC output. Oh. It's definitely got some memory in it. Let's get a measurement on it. So as far as height, it's slightly over 12 inches. And just about 38¼ inches. Oh man. Refreshing. Just under 9 inches by the same 12¼ and it's about, I'm going to include a ½ inch for that, about 1.5 inches thick when folded up. So the surface feels like a cloth, like a notepad. Build quality seems good. It's good. It's that type of like PET type panel where it doesn't seem to want to scratch. First things first, looks like we have a goodie box. Interesting shaped goodie box. Includes AC charging cable, USB A to B, I believe that's B, and a car charger. And let's get this guy out. All right. Let's see its width. Oh, 9 inches. That's what she said. About 6 inches tall. And about 9 inches wide, or deep. We have a USB-A, USB-A, USB-C. We have 110. We have a light on and off button, power button, DC on, 12 volts, car socket. We have 2 additional AC ports in the back, so you don't just get the one, you get 3. This is your solar port and 110 volt input for AC charging. And USB-B is for UPS mode. Let's fire it up. It's like it's 30% out of the box. AC on. DC on. Light on. Whoa, more illuminate. And strobate. I think what we need to do next is charge this unit and see what the input charge rate is. I do enjoy that the door opens and tucks away. It's not something that's going to break off. I appreciate that. So we'll let this charge. We'll let it do its thing for a little bit, and then we'll come back through and we'll test all the outputs. and I came out to my shop here, and it smells like funky plastic, like melty plastic or something out here. And it's really off-putting, and it's coming from the vents. We're going to retest the USB port. The previous tests, the cabling wasn't very good, so we're going to redo this again. So if it looks different than the rest of the video, that's why. Right now we're getting 5.6 volts, 5.06, apologies. And we're going to crank it up till we get about 2.4 amps. So there's 2.45 amps. So it says it's putting out 12 watts. It's at 4.6 volts, which is tolerable. Let's see how high we can go. How about 3 amps? So that's 3.04 amps at 4.45 volts. That's pretty low for USB. It's probably about as high as it'll go. This says it's at about 15 watts. Let's see if we can get it to overload. And it just overloaded. Cool. Let's see if it resets itself. We're back at 5 volts. And at 1 amp. So it is self-resetting. I have my Klein meter plugged into the USB-C port. Currently is not turned on because there's no load. Let's turn on a load. And now we have a load. And we're at 20 volts, 1 amps, 0.86 amps, 129 amps. And it does look like it's doing it. So it does produce power delivery. I know it's kind of an obvious thing, but unfortunately I'm limited into what I can test with this. We have our oscilloscope plugged in, or we will power it on. And make sure we got a good angle here so you can see it. Let's turn our AC. Our 2 leads are separated, so nobody's gonna get shocked. Turn on AC, and that is a BEA, a beautiful sine wave. Oh, look at that. Look at that. It's amazing. But the RMS voltage, so it's 119 volts, 118 volts, kind of cycling through there if you look. So the RMS is actual usable voltage. Peak to peak is actually the measurement between the positive and negative peaks of the sine wave. So, but all of your voltmeters and stuff are going to be RMS voltmeters. So there you go. Okay, so I wanted to start with this bench grinder, and I wanted to actually take some measurements before, so I did, and I wrote those measurements down on it. So at 50%, which is when the dial is halfway up, we're pulling 21 watts from the wall, and at 100%, we're pulling about 121 watts from the wall. So we are going to see if those wattages match, and performance seems to be the same. I love that right off the bat, even on the lowest setting. That's big. Halfway, so it's pulling 18 watts. Crank it up. I forgot to mention that the 121 was a surge wattage. So, and it surged up to about 123. So it seems to run little motors like this and probably other motors within its wattage range very well. All right, next test. This is a very small space heater. This one actually surges up to 220 watts and it runs at about 200 watts. So that's what we should observe when we turn it on. But let's see. See if we can get in there, 140. So it's producing heat. We'll put it right there on the middle plastic just as a reference. So 139, 140. So yeah, it's putting out good heat. So we're gonna call tiny space heater, ultimate tiny space heater, a pass. Okay, now we have tiny space heater's cousin, a slightly chunkier space heater. This one does surge up to about 660 watts, and it has about 330 running watts, or watts running, as I put on my label. With the Predator 350, it would not run it. because of the surge voltage. It would always overload. So let's give it a test and see how high it gets. And just so we know it's not warm, 73 degrees. And we're surging up to 590, 619, 600. So far so good. It's producing heat. Yep, that's quite a bit more heat, a lot more heat than the other one. Getting a lot hotter. Put it right in the middle. 330 degrees. So yeah, not pushing a lot of heat, but it is making a lot of heat. So there you go. I'm gonna call this a pass. No issues with it on surge start. It just ran. So this is a hot plate. It's a hot plate. Typically, when I measured it coming out of the wall, it was drawing 967 watts. I measured the center of this after 2 minutes, and it was at 450 degrees. This thing cannot handle that much wattage, but with X-Boost on, it's supposed to do it. I did test it offline earlier just to see what the voltages look like, and it does drop down to about 97 volts AC when it does this. But, you know, this thing draws 967 out of the wall. We will see what it draws from here. And I always just crank this up to max. I temperature check it. And it is cool. It's at 74 degrees. This is ambient temperature of this room. Let's crank it all the way to max. 600 watts. It's doing its thing. I'm gonna let it sit for 2 minutes, starting now, and I'll come back. Okay, we're coming up on that 2 minute mark. And what I did originally was I measured the center of this with my temperature probe, 450 degrees after 2 minutes. Here's 2 minutes. And we're sitting at about 370 degrees. And it's getting warmer, but it's definitely not 450 degrees that you would get out of a wall outlet. This thing's only drawing 600 watts. So that means this probably is not getting the power it really needs to do. I mean, it's hot, obviously. You just saw it. But I don't think, could you cook with this? I'm sure you could, and I'm sure the longer we let it run, the hotter it's gonna get. Yep, they're at 400, 417, 423, 430. So, you know, it's not too far behind, but it's definitely not giving it the juice that it probably needs to perform at its peak. It being a resistive load is probably not bad for the device itself, but I just don't see this being very practical because right now we only have 21 minutes left of running. I hope you can cook whatever you need to cook in 21 minutes on this. All right, now we're gonna do the capacity test based on the inverter. What we're gonna do is we're going to run this MyHeat, which has about 200 running watts, off of this unit. We're gonna start this and this timer at the same time, and I'm gonna do a time-lapse video. This right here will display our kilowatt hours. So I expect to get somewhere around 250, and let's get started. All right, so we got about 271 watt hours out of it. Compared to its rating, that's pretty darn good. So definitely an applause there. Now we're gonna see how long it takes for this thing to recharge. So here we go. All right, time for the summary. We will go over the rated specs and what we received. We'll go over some pros and cons, and then we'll go over kind of the overall opinion that I have of the review. This unit is rated at 286 watt hours. From the inverter, we received 271 watt hours. That is with Wi-Fi and app connected, so that's pretty good, which was 94.7% of its rated capacity. That's pretty healthy. The price that I paid for this unit was $209. I'm just going to use $209 as the number, not including any discounts or taxes. So at $209, that is 73 cents per watt hour. And that's okay. We'll talk about that here in a second. The 12 volt port is rated at 126 watts. We were able to consistently pull 140 watts from it. At about 145 watts, it overloaded, which is pretty healthy. The USB-A ports are rated at 2.4 amps at 5 volts, about 12 watts. We were able to pull 14.8 watts from these consistently before it overloaded. It overloaded at about 16 watts. The USB-C port, unfortunately, I don't have a great way to test this to see if we get its rated output. It did produce USB-C power delivery output, and that's about all I could test as of today. What are the pros of this unit? The pros are the 3 AC ports, 1 on the front, 2 in the back. It's always nice to have more. It does have a light on the front. For some people, that's not huge. For some, that is huge. For a power bank of this size and probably its philosophy of use, that light is probably very handy. I know I will find it handy. It does have an app, unlike the Predator generator that I tested before, which does not have an app, does not have connectivity. This one does. This one also has firmware availability, schedules. You can turn ports on and off through the app. You can monitor the unit from the app. And you don't necessarily need to be connected directly to it or connected to the Wi-Fi network that it's connected to. It is a cloud-based service. Another pro to this particular unit is the 10 millisecond backup time. So if you are running something that is sensitive electronics and you're using this as some kind of a backup, it's gonna that switch over time of 10 milliseconds should be fast enough for any sensitive electronic devices you may be running off of this. One of the huge cons, and I'm going to kind of elaborate on this ad nauseum, this thing stunk. This thing stunk. And when I say it stunk, the first time I plugged in and charged it, this port was outputting a terrible, terrible plastic burny, melty smell. It reminded me of like melting ABS plastic. It started to give me a headache after a while. I had to vent out the shop. After about 2 charge-discharge cycles, this smell has seemed to have dissipated. Doesn't seem to be producing it anymore. I don't know what component in there was off-gassing. Hopefully it's off-gassed all the way, and hopefully I don't get cancer from it. So I hope that EcoFlow sees this review. I hope they hear that, and I hope they address it, because that was really, really off-putting. If you do buy one of these, I recommend charge-discharge outside, garage, someplace where smells don't really matter, and hopefully it's a well-ventilated area, because after 2 charge-discharge cycles, this thing has stopped. I don't have a smell coming from it anymore. As far as matching its specs, I give it a 5 out of 5. Every spec that it had, from dimensions to weight to capacity to output specs, everything matched. Everything was good to go, in some cases exceeded. So I give it a 5 out of 5. The battery capacity, I give it a 5 out of 5. It does what it says it's going to do. The value, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. And the reason being was that 73 cents per watt hour. For additional features, such as lights, the app, the UPS functionality, I gave it a 4 out of 5. Additional features are really nice. Overall, I like the unit. I think it's a great unit. I think the only thing that would prevent me from working with this unit and recommending it is that smell. The smell coming out the side was terrible. If you decide to buy one of these, I would discharge it a few times, a patio, porch, somewhere in a ventilated area, so that you don't have to smell that, because it seems to have subsided after about 2 charge cycles. So I hope this review helped you. Please subscribe, like if you like. If you didn't like, don't hit dislike. It hurts my feelings. I'm human. I'm human, and I'm a man with feelings. So if you could please recommend this video to your friends or recommend it to anybody that is considering one of these, I would appreciate it. And again, thanks for watching.